Hey there, it's Chris Durst from RatRaceRebellion.com. Today, we have the final installment of our free online course about how to find and land legitimate work from home jobs. If you've followed along with the other 9 modules by now, you have a really good bead on how to find the job that you want, how to make sure that it's legitimate and you're not going to get bamboozled by some con man. You've discovered how to write an amazing resume that's going to get you past the bots, the applicant tracking software that screens out 75% of applications that companies receive. You've learned the importance of a cover letter and how that can really, in spite of what a lot of people think, they are not old school, but they can really, really help you when it comes to getting your foot in the door and getting to the interview process, which is what we're going to talk about today. First of all, let me tell you what a work from home interview does not look like, unless it's a scam. With more and more scammers adopting the names of legitimate companies into their scams to try to fool people into thinking that you're actually interviewing with a real company, it's just a huge hazard. And unfortunately, we hear from people every single day who thought that they had a job offer from a real company and ended up instead communicating with a scammer who was either trying to get their personal information so that they could steal their identity, or get their financial information so that they could open credit card accounts and other accounts in their name, and just make them accumulate a lot of debt that they ultimately didn't know anything about. Or they're going to try to send you a check, usually by PDF for mobile deposit, that will not be real. They'll tell you that it's for the purchase of equipment and software. And those interviews generally happen strictly by chat. They'll reach out sometimes through a Facebook Messenger post. A lot of times they'll ask you to communicate with them through an online messaging app like Signal. Oh my gosh, what are some of the other ones? They're using Google Chat. And there's another one. Oh, Session. That's what it was. I was pulling up my phone because I communicate with so many of these scammers to try to nail them to the wall. They're also using Telegram. So there are a lot of instruments that they use to communicate with their victims. And those are not tools that are used by legitimate companies as a rule. Sometimes a legitimate company will ask you to communicate with them on Microsoft Teams. They might ask you to do a Google Meet or a Google Chat, but it's not going to be expressly through that medium. And if for any reason it is, make sure that you're always checking the email addresses, the to and the from email addresses, to make sure that it's coming from the actual company and not a Gmail address, not a Yahoo address, not a free account somewhere. I've been putting out a lot of scam videos on the YouTube channel. If you're watching this video on the YouTube channel, just look for the playlist on scams and educate yourself as to what a lot of these different scams look like. That'll help you determine when you get to this interview point whether or not you're actually talking with a real company or a scammer. All right, so just wanted to get that out of the way so that we can move forward and talk about what a real interview looks like with a real company for a real job. One of the first things that you need to know is it will be in some ways very much the same as interviewing in person, but in other ways that are really important, it will be different. One of the first things you need to recognize is that these companies, especially if they're hiring for multiple people in a similar position. So let's say you're applying for a customer service role and the company is ramping up and they're bringing in 500 people at the same time. And those people are being hired from across the US or from within 23 states in the US, whatever the parameters are. They're casting a broader net. So if you were applying for a position with a local company, their net is being cast about 20 miles, maybe 25 miles, whatever people consider to be a normal commute. They're looking for people within a certain very limited geographical area. And that means that they're going to have a limited number of applicants. A company that's seeking a great number of people remotely is going to get thousands, if not tens of thousands, applications for those positions that they're hiring for. And that means that they're going to have the cream of the crop. They're going to be looking for the cream of the crop. And if you have reached the point where you're getting into an interview with them, you've managed to get over the first couple of hurdles. You managed to get past the applicant tracking software. You managed to get your resume into the hands of a human being who has decided that you're worth talking to. So give yourself a pat on the back. That is a great start. Now you have to nail the interview, and you're going to want to make sure you have your ducks in a row for that. That means starting by, first of all, investigating the company. Really dig in, research the company, make sure that you know forward and backward what they do, because a lot of times they will ask you questions that will help them determine whether or not you've done homework, whether you've gone ahead and tried to learn something about the company, or if you're just leaving everything in their hands. Companies love to know that job applicants are truly interested in working for them and not just looking for a job with any company. So take your time to learn about that. It's oftentimes something that local employers aren't looking for, because they assume that they're local, you're local, you understand what the company is and what they do, especially if they play a large role in the local economy. So take the time to learn about the company. Understand that when it comes time to actually get into that interview, you're not going to have the same kinds of organic conversational interplay opportunities that often happen in the in-person interviews. That eye contact, the body language, the subtleties that happen when human beings communicate will in large part be absent. And that means that if you end up in an interview where you're on a webcam, like I am now, I'm talking to you, you might notice one of the things that I do is I make sure that I'm making eye contact with you. We're not sitting in the same room, but as you're watching my videos, you'll notice that I take the time to talk to you, to look at you. I sometimes will peek over and take a look at a note to make sure that I'm not missing any of the points that I wanted to discuss with you. But in large part, I'm communicating with the camera as though it's you. And that's so important when you're doing these interviews. If you're distracted, if you're looking at your cell phone, or you're referring to your notes, or you're doing any number of other things, you have kids coming in and out of the rooms, you've got pets barking in the background, all of those things will play a role in what they decide about you ultimately in the hiring process. Secondly, when you're on camera or on the phone, the audio really, really matters. What your interviewer is hearing and seeing from you during that process is, in their minds, what is going to be happening if you start working for them remotely. In other words, they're checking out your environment, your work environment, not your home environment, but your work environment when they're talking to you. So if you're distracted, if you're in a noisy environment while they're talking to you before you're even hired, they're going to anticipate that it's going to be noisy. It's going to be disruptive. It is not going to be a good place for you to conduct your job, your duties, if they should hire you. Be extremely careful to make sure that they are seeing a quiet, well-organized work environment. when they're talking to you. Yes, you're talking from home. Have somebody else there to watch the kids, to watch the dogs, to watch the cats. Otherwise, you could end up with surprises that are not going to go well for you ultimately when decisions are being made. Now, if you're not doing a webcam interview and everything is being done over the phone, one of the things that I've always found helpful is to walk around a bit during the course of the process. Sometimes most people, if you're at home, you're having a phone conversation with a friend or family member, we're walking around. It helps to, sometimes with a lot of people, it can help to clear the head. One of the benefits of a phone interview is you can have notes. You can have something with you. If you're going to be sitting at your desk when you're doing a phone interview, then by all means have the notes on the computer screen in front of you so that you can scroll through and make sure that if you've decided that you have a sense of what kinds of questions they're going to be asking and you have preformed some answers or at least a loose criteria of what those answers need to cover, then by all means have them in front of you. As a matter of fact, it's a great idea to anticipate questions and prepare responses. Not prepared to the point where it sounds like you're a robot delivering pre-canned answers. That's never a good idea. But to the extent that you can make sure that you're hitting all of those marks that you want to make sure that you're hitting. Among other things, the interview is meant to test your ability to be attentive, to be focused and friendly over the phone or on a webcam. So again, don't be distracted. As you would with an in-person interview, make sure that you show up on time. And a lot of times that means testing the technology in advance. So if they're asking you to meet them in a Microsoft Teams meeting, for example, log on early. Make sure that you're actually able to connect. Test everything. Make sure that your microphone is working. Make sure that your camera is working. If you're taking a phone call on your cell phone, make sure that you're in an area where you have excellent connectivity and the call isn't going to be cutting in and out, even if that means having to take it from your car somewhere, with the understanding that it's going to help you get better connectivity. Be friendly. But not overly. So it's important to establish a rapport, but not to the point where you're revealing too much about yourself personally. Now, remember, in the course of the application process, they can't ask you, do you have children? They can't ask you your age. There are a lot of things that could hinder you in the process. For example, explaining that you have 5 children at home in the course of a verbal interview might cause, without even realizing it, the interviewer to think that how can you possibly provide a quiet environment all the time if you have 5 children? Number one. Number two, what kind of schedule interruptions might there be? Are you going to have to worry about pickups and drop-offs and school activities and babysitters not showing? So don't plant seeds of doubt where they are not necessary. So be careful not to overexpose yourself, especially in ways that may be detrimental. Make sure that you, in the process of investigating the company or researching the company, that you also figure out what other people have experienced in their interviews with the same company previously. And there are some great resources for doing that. Let me show you. So Google is our friend. I already talked about Google in previous segments, but whatever search engine you decide to use, I always use Google as an example because I find them very user-friendly. But you do you. If you have another one that you prefer, then that's great. So you can see here I am in Google and I have typed in Amazon interviewing for a remote position. And this is going to bring up a lot of different things. You'll see people talking about it on Reddit. You'll see people talking about it on Glassdoor. You'll see people talking about it on Indeed and other places as well. One of the cool things about Amazon is they actually have a page set up to help you understand what their remote interview process looks like. So we can take a look right here. It gives you information on how to prepare for the virtual interview. It's going to tell you which software they're using. It's their video conferencing tool called Chime. It's telling you how to test it. It's telling you to explore their interview page. It will help you prepare for your remote interview. It's going to give you instructions on the day of the interview, what to expect, troubleshooting tips, and additional tips right down to what you should wear, and then some facts about the process as well. So that's just a for example, using Amazon as an example. And I also picked one up over here on American Express. I wanted to grab a company that doesn't have a page like Amazon does, giving you the exact information. This is where you can lean into the information provided by other people. So, for example, through Indeed. And here I've used American Express in quotes. So if you saw my module on using Google, you'll know why that's in quotes. So Amazon Express interview process for remote position. And that's just how I chose to phrase it. I find that sort of more expansive search, rather than just saying Amazon Express remote interview. By throwing in a few more words, it gives me better feedback. So here, for example, you can see Indeed questions and answers about American Express work from home. So it brings me up to the Indeed page, and you can see here people are asking questions about the company generally, and then what is the hiring process? So it's going to give you answers to that. Just generally people asking questions in here. And then you can also find information about the interview process here. So people will give examples of how long does it take to get an interview after applying. They're going to give you information generally here, so you can find out what that feedback looks like. My interview took place on Friday, have not heard back since. I did my phone screen interview. All right. So just telling you what their experience was so you can figure out what the norm is for the company. I'm going to go back here just one more, and we'll look at what Glassdoor has to say. All right. And here we see American Express home-based service, customer care, professional interview questions. Okay. So this is people just sort of checking in and saying, hey, I applied with the company. These were some of the questions that were asked during that process. And here, super interactive, including recorded interview after passing the hire view. Recorded interview, I had a virtual face-to-face and was offered a job at the end of the interview. Questions that they were asked: why do you want to work for American Express? And this is why it's so important to research the company and learn a little bit about them. Now, in the process, when they're asking you that question, I want you to do a little bit of homework, looking at sites like Indeed and Glassdoor and finding out what current employees have to say, because it's wonderful to be able to say to them, while I was researching your company, I visited Indeed, I visited Glassdoor to see what people have to say about working for American Express. And what I was really impressed with was they said, and then fill in the blanks. They said that management is very attentive. Management is highly organized. Whatever it is that you're looking for, home in on those things that are really important to you and let them know that through the validation of people who are already working for the company, you feel confident that the company is going to be able to meet that criteria for you. And then you can also include some information about the company generally. You know, I love that the company is solid, that they've been around for 150 years or whatever it happens to be. So prepare yourself for that question and take a look at some of the other questions that are going to be asked as well. For example, name a time you had to deliver exceptional customer service. Be prepared. Now, if you're watching this video on YouTube, you're going to find a link below that's going to take you to the links and resources associated with this video. And among those, you're going to find links to some tough interview questions and how to answer them. So we're definitely going to cover that a little bit here, but we want you to read those posts because it will give you more in-depth information. Let's wrap up this module by taking a look at some of the tough questions that stump people during interviews. They're pretty common. And most of us at some point in time have encountered them. And then after the interview, gotten out to our car and gone, why didn't I have a better answer for that? If you're like me, a lot of your best answers come after it's too late to give them. And you wish you could pick up the phone and say, hey, you know, when I said this, I wish I had said this instead. So instead, we want to help you prepare for some of those things that might blindside you or catch you off guard. So to that end, let's take a look at some of the tough questions. One of the ones that people, especially those who are sort of old school in their interview, have a tendency to ask is, how would you describe yourself in one word? And that can be a tough one because we have a tendency to want to expand on who we are and how people see us. And oftentimes that leads to people answering with things like hard worker or fast learner. And that's pretty generic. So instead of thinking in generic terms, start to think about what your word might be, one that describes you, but that also helps the interviewer envision you in the role that they're interviewing you for. And I've put together a list of some here for you to sort of put into the back of your mind. Things like resilient, adaptable, open-minded, patient, diligent, persuasive, learner, resourceful, communicator. So you can see here, there's a big difference between the ones that you're seeing on this list and fast learner, hard worker. There are things where the person you're talking to is going to be able to say, oh yeah, well, we need that. We need that in this role. Every role, they want you to be a hard worker. Every role, they want you to be a fast learner. So those are generic. Those are throwaways. Give them something that's not a throwaway. Think about what you are, what you bring to the table, and how it helps you fit into this role. And that will help you come up with that one word. By the way, drop your word in the comments below if you're watching on YouTube. As we go through these tough questions, I would love it if you guys can help us to start to build an index of what your answers would be, because that will help other people as well as they start to formulate what their answers will be. Not just for this tough question, but for those that are coming forward from here. Why should we hire you? Another one. This one comes up at almost every interview. And what I want you to do is basically create a sales pitch for yourself. That's what they're looking for. They want you to pitch yourself, sell yourself to the company. And that means that you're going to want to take a look at your experience in the industry, your soft skills. And by that, I mean things like your communication skills, your adaptability, time management, problem solving, those things that are just inherent to who you are. They're not hard skills like being able to use Microsoft Word or Excel or tech skills. These are soft skills. These are the things that are hard to quantify, but you know you have them when you have them. Your experience in performing the kinds of tasks that are associated with the job that you are applying for. Really, really important. Your technical skills. And remember, even if they are not, maybe you're not extremely technically inclined, but remember, you're applying for a remote job. That means you're going to be using equipment that's going to help you communicate with the company and potentially with clients as well. So it's important for them to know, in many cases, that you're adept at using technology that's put in front of you. Any of your related training and education, and your key accomplishments. You don't have to put all of these into your answer, but build an answer that focuses around at least a couple of these. And as an example, in my previous position, I mastered, and then fill in the blank with exactly the types of skills that they're looking for. So if you're, for example, applying for a customer service role, you can say something like, in my previous position, I mastered the art of working with difficult customers, or whatever you want to put in there, fill in the blank. And I'm confident I can use these skills to shine in this role. I also have excellent communication skills that have helped me to work effectively with my managers and colleagues alike. As a remote employee, I believe these communication skills will help ensure my quick and relatively seamless integration into your team. So in this answer, you're showcasing what you've done in the past. You're reminding them of your skill sets, and you're letting them know that you work well with managers and other people on your team. And you're also letting them know that you will be a quick trainee because you already have so many of the skills that they're looking for, and you're bringing those to the table. So you're hitting on a lot of high points. As another example, this one says, I feel as though the job description is a near mirror image of my skills and experience. My X number of years working successfully in similar roles, I've honed my skills and proven my expertise as a fill in the job title. Perhaps just as importantly, though, I'm passionate about the industry, and I'm excited to apply my knowledge and skills to the position and to learn even more from some of the best in the field. So you're ending with a compliment to the company. You're reminding them of what your skill sets are, and you're letting them know that you're excited about the job and you'll be an exceptional fit. So again, weave it in there, give them the kind of answer that you're looking for, that they're looking for. How do you handle stress? This one's coming up more and more in interviews now, and it stumps a lot of people just because it catches them off guard. They're asking you this because they want to know that they're hiring people who can adapt to different situations, who have great coping skills when the going gets tough, because invariably the going will get tough at least sometimes. So as a first example, on the job, I react to situations rather than stress. My philosophy is the only way to get past the stress is to handle the task at hand so I can move forward. In other words, it doesn't become a stumbling block. You understand that stress happens, you deal with it, you take the bull by the horns so that you can move on and get on with the other tasks at hand. In the next one, we say, I size up the situation to get a clear sense of what needs to be done, and if necessary, I reprioritize my responsibilities to effectively manage the issue. So here it's saying, if necessary, you will reprioritize. So in other words, you're indicating that your whole world is not going to come crashing down. You're not going to stop working on what you need to be working on to do the job effectively. Instead, you're going to figure out how and when it's best to handle this fire that now needs to be put out. And then as a final example, fortunately, I do some of my best work under pressure. It's an organic part of working in a dynamic environment, and I find it more invigorating than anything. So, boom. Yep. Throw it at me, baby. I can handle the stress. I've got it. It just lights a fire under me, and you're going to be awed at how well I can handle stress. Love that answer. All right. The next tough question. Why do you want to work for our company? And one of the reasons that they ask you that question is they want to know if you've taken the time to research the company, or if you're just applying for everything and hoping to work for any company. And you may be doing that, but when you actually get an interview, let them know that you took the time to take a look at their company and why you feel you're a good fit. So once you've done your homework, you can deliver an answer that shows the interviewer that you've taken the time to research the company, that you're a good fit for the corporate culture, that you agree with and fit along with the mission and the values statement of the company, and you have the skills and experience to meet the company's goals for this particular role. So, for example, in my research of the company, I read dozens of reviews from employees on Glassdoor and Indeed, and most noted that your company has an excellent corporate culture and a wonderful management team. I would love to work for a company that inspires that kind of feedback from their employees. And as my experience and skills dovetail so well with your needs for this role, it seems the ideal time to join the company family. So indicating that you took the time to do some research, you understand that others like the company, you would love to be a part of that team, especially in this moment, because they're a great company and you're a great fit. Now, this is a good time to weave in anything that you might know, especially about the company. Maybe they're very eco-friendly and you're very eco-minded. Maybe they are the best in class. Maybe they are the creme de la creme in their industry. And who wouldn't want to work for that company? So yeah, do your homework, figure out where your best fit is, and stay true to yourself. Make sure that that you're answering in a way that's meaningful to you. Avoid saying things like, I want to work with you because you guys have great health benefits, because you pay more than any other company does. Are those things important? Yes. Are they important for you to share? No. Everybody's looking for those things. Everybody's looking for an employer that pays well. Everybody's looking for a company that has great health benefits. Go a little bit deeper than that. Look for the things where there are deeper synergies between you and the company. Okay, next tough question. Tell me about a time you've overcome an obstacle. This is a very common question, and yet it is one that still people go into interviews unprepared for. Don't do that, because it really is an important question. And the reason that they ask it is they want to make sure that you're a problem solver, that you're going to be able to react in a positive way when life throws you a curveball on the job. So we always suggest putting together a STAR response. That is one that familiarizes them with a situation, a task, an action, and the result. So the situation: when I was an assistant in an advertising firm, a major client decided to go in a completely different direction with an ad campaign just days before it was set to launch. That's the situation. So you're painting a picture. You're setting the scene. The task. So this is why you're going to explain why this was challenging, okay? This meant going back to the drawing board and creating a new campaign and a strategy for getting all of the pieces in place on a very abbreviated timeline. So that's the task. All right. So now that's what you have to do. Now this is where you jump in and describe the actions. What actions did you take to accomplish what needed to be done? With so many moving parts and the accelerated pace of the project at hand, I offered to be the administrative point person for the project, essentially becoming the person who would be tracking the progress of all persons working on the project and keeping them all in one place. So making sure that there's not a bunch of tentacles or tendrils out there, and nobody being accountable for everything that needs to be done. And then finally, the results. By becoming the administrative hub for the project, the team was able to avoid the usual process of trying to track down status updates from people who were not always available and come directly to me. This saved dozens of hours of wasted man hours, and the campaign was delivered as ordered and on time. The company also adopted the practice for all projects going forward. Bam. This person thought on their feet, came up with a solution, didn't feel defeated, got everybody on board, and it was such a good solution that the company adopted it for all projects going forward. That's an amazing answer to the question. All right, next question. Why do you want to work from home? Here's a bad answer. I really need the flexibility so I can juggle my children's school and sports commitments. Bad answer. As the interviewer, as the company, the hiring company, what you're hearing there, or what they're hearing is, okay, here's somebody who wants to work from home for their convenience because they have too many other things to juggle, and that means we are not going to be a priority. Avoid anything that's going to give them the impression that you may not be able to function very, very well in a remote role. Instead, try something like, while I work well as part of a team, I've found that I'm most productive when I'm free from the distractions of a traditional office and where I have more control over my work environment. Boom. That's it. You took something that could have been a negative, you scratched that answer and put a positive answer out there for them instead. Basically, what you're saying is, by me working remotely, I become a bigger asset to the company. And so ends Module 10, the final installment of our free online course about how to find and land legitimate work-from-home jobs. I hope that you have loved the entire course and that you feel so well equipped now to avoid scams and find your perfect job that's actually hiring in the state where you live, and that you feel capable of putting together a resume that is going to get past the bots or the applicant tracking software and into the hands of a human resources manager. And that now you feel well equipped to handle the interview when you reach that step as well. So that's it. I will let you go with an invitation to join us on the ratracerebellion.com website, where we post curated, screened work from home jobs 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. While you're there, be sure to click on our buttons to subscribe to our newsletter to make sure that you're never missing anything that we're posting there. Visit our big list of work from home jobs and companies that hire. We have, I believe, over 1,100, almost 1,200 companies listed on there. And they all hire remote workers on a regular basis. And just be sure to subscribe to this channel as well here on YouTube and share it with friends and family who might also benefit. We do post scam exposés on this channel as well. So even after you have found your job, you can stay on the channel with us, watch those exposés. It's always fun to watch scammers go down in flames. It's also a great way for you to stay on top of what's happening out there and helping to educate friends, families, coworkers who might be encountering things that could get them into trouble. We appreciate you. We look forward to seeing you all over the place on the Rat Race Rebellion site and here on YouTube. Bye-bye now.